Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
When I was 14, my parents had to leave town for a business trip, leaving me to watch my 10-year-old brother for about a week. My aunt would check on us daily to make sure we hadn't burned the house down or anything, but mostly we were on our own. I have this skin condition that makes my skin really thick and rubbery looking. It's not contagious or anything, just looks different. We live in a small town where everyone knows everyone. And since I'm one of the few kids with darker skin in our mostly white neighborhood, I'm pretty used to getting stares from newcomers. By day 4 of being home alone, we were running low on groceries. I asked my aunt for some money to grab essentials like bread, eggs, and milk. She agreed, especially since I needed to pick up my monthly medication from the pharmacy anyway. There's only one store in our area that has a pharmacy, so that's where everyone goes. I rode my bike to the store and immediately noticed this woman in the parking lot. She looked like the classic stereotype: blonde hair, demanding expression, 3 little kids trailing behind her ranging from maybe 1 to 5 years old. I figured she might be new to town since I'd never seen her before, but didn't think much of it. When I parked my bike and walked toward the entrance, she gave me this really strange look. Like I said, I'm used to new people staring because of my skin color, so I just ignored it and headed inside. While I was shopping, I noticed she kept following me around the store. Again, no big deal, maybe she needed the same stuff I was getting. I grabbed my groceries, picked up my medication from the pharmacy counter, and headed to checkout. I put the medicine box in my backpack and was still zipping it up when she got in line directly behind me. That's when everything went completely insane. She started screaming at the top of her lungs for someone to call the police. Her yelling immediately set off all 3 of her kids, who started wailing and crying, creating this awful scene in the middle of the store. The manager came rushing over. This is important, the manager happens to be my best friend's dad, and he also teaches drama at my school. I'm actually one of his best students. The manager asked what had happened, trying to calm everyone down. The woman said I had been stealing and that she'd seen me put drugs in my backpack. She started fake crying, and I mean really fake crying. It sounded so ridiculous that I actually started laughing, which apparently was a wrong response. She called me names and then slapped me. Actually slapped me across the face. I was so shocked I couldn't even react for a moment. The manager told her to calm down and asked what exactly she thought I had stolen. She said I had a whole box of drugs with about 40 pills inside my backpack. The manager looked at me and I could see he was trying not to roll his eyes. He knew this was ridiculous, but he had to handle the situation properly. He told me to open my bag so they could see what was inside and said I'd be banned from the store afterward. Here's where my drama training came in handy. I decided to put on a little performance. I started apologizing frantically, saying I just wanted to have some fun, and begging not to be banned since I needed to pick up my medicine there every month for my skin condition. I handed over my backpack with this really guilty, scared expression. He opened it up and pulled out my prescription medication. The woman had this smug, satisfied look on her face like she'd just solved a major crime. The manager shook the pill bottle, grabbed my shoulder, and pulled me up with a big grin. He told me I'd get an A-star for that acting performance when he saw me on Tuesday at school. We both started cracking up, which completely wiped the smug expression off her face. She asked how he could allow a kid to have drugs and then laugh about it. The manager explained that those weren't illegal drugs at all, but my prescription medicine for my skin condition. By this point, the police had arrived because she had called them. The officers asked what was going on, and the manager immediately pulled up the security footage. There it was, clear as day, an adult woman slapping a minor over a complete misunderstanding. The police arrested her on the spot for assault on a minor, since she had her 3 young kids with her and had just shown she was willing to physically attack a child over nothing. Child Protective Services was called to take custody of the children until they could figure out what to do. She kept screaming about how unfair it all was when they led her away in handcuffs, saying she was just protecting everyone from a drug dealer. The officer told her she'd assaulted a child over prescription medication and needed to stop talking. Here's where it gets even better. Remember how I mentioned my parents were away on a business trip? Well, the business they own is one of the most successful law firms in our region. When they got back and heard what happened, they were absolutely furious that someone had assaulted their son. My dad immediately took the case for free just because he wanted to make sure this woman faced the full results of her actions. My mom, who works with family law cases, also got involved to make sure those kids were properly taken care of. The woman ended up facing charges for assault on a minor, false reporting to police, and creating a public disturbance. The whole thing was caught on security camera, so there was no way for her to claim it was self-defense or that I had actually done anything wrong. When the court date came around, my parents made sure I was there to give my testimony. Her lawyer tried to argue that she was just being a concerned citizen, but the video evidence was pretty damning. You could clearly see her following me around the store, then attacking me when I did nothing but pick up my legal prescription. The judge was not impressed with her behavior at all, especially the part where she slapped a 14-year-old kid. She got sentenced to community service, anger management classes, and had to pay a fine. She also had to complete parenting classes before she could get her kids back. When she tried to sue the store for allowing drug dealers on the premises, my parents shut that down so fast it wasn't even funny. They sent her lawyer a letter explaining exactly how badly that would go for her if she tried to pursue it. I still go to that same store every month to pick up my medication, and the manager always asks how my acting career is going. The woman never showed her face in our town again, which was probably the smartest decision she made in this whole mess. Back in April 2018, I was driving home from work in my 2006 Ford Focus when I hit some black ice. The roads were terrible that day. Heavy snow and freezing temperatures. I ended up rear-ending the car in front of me. Thankfully, nobody got hurt, but his car had a scratched bumper and my front bumper cracked on the side. We called the cops, exchanged insurance info, and that was that. I'd owned that Focus for almost 2 years, and it felt like I was constantly taking it to the mechanic. This accident was the last straw. I decided it was time for a new car. I took the old Focus to a friend who does car repairs on the side to get it fixed up, and my co-worker gave me rides to work while I car shopped. It took me a while, but about a month ago I finally found my dream car. There was this dealer offering cars with daily registration for 10,000 euros, less than the original price. After talking to my bank manager, I became the owner of a 2018 Ford Focus ST Line Sport Edition. This thing was gorgeous, completely black except for the red roof and red tops on the side mirrors. It only had 15 miles on it when I bought it, so naturally I wanted to sell my old Focus. I posted it on AutoScout24 for 350 euros with room for negotiation. My partner and I cleaned it inside and out, and most of the damage was repaired. I knew I wouldn't get much for it, but something was better than nothing. Since I live in the old town where parking is a nightmare, I kept the old Focus at my grandma's house in the countryside. It's got a nice driveway and I could take good photos for the ad without bothering anyone. 2 days ago, while I was at work, I got a voicemail from someone interested in the car. I called him back and we arranged to meet at my grandma's place after my shift ended. He seemed normal enough on the phone. I got to grandma's place early and parked my new Focus next to the old one. I went inside to let grandma know I was selling the car and double-checked that everything looked good. The buyer was supposed to arrive at 3:30 p.m. He showed up at 4 p.m. with his teenage son, maybe 17 or 18 years old. The father apologized for being late and explained that my place was hard to find. I shrugged it off since they clearly weren't from around here. We started looking at the old Focus together. I explained all the repairs I'd done and answered his questions about mileage and horsepower. Pretty standard stuff. But I noticed his son wasn't paying attention to the car we were discussing at all. Instead, he was staring at my new Focus with his mouth practically hanging open. The kid suddenly got excited and complimented my new car, saying it was a really nice ride. I thanked him for the compliment. Then the son asked if he could take it for a ride. Now I'm pretty protective of my new car, and this kid looked like he'd gotten his license yesterday. No way was I letting him drive it. I told him sorry, but that wasn't happening since I just got the car a few weeks ago. The father chimed in and encouraged me to let the boy have a little fun. I refused again and reminded them that we were here to talk about my 2006 Focus, not my new one. The son complained that he liked the newer car better. Then the father suggested that I sell them the new car instead since his son preferred it. I asked how much they would pay me anyway. The father said they would pay the 350 euros from the ad. I had to clarify that the ad price was for the 2006 Ford Focus, not the new one. The father then offered me 3,000 euros for the new car. I told them I was serious and that I had paid 30,000 euros for that car. That was the original price, but even with my deal, I'd paid 20,000 euros. The father argued that since I had driven the car for a while, there should be a price drop. I told them this conversation was going nowhere and that we were done. I turned toward my car and pulled out my keys. I just wanted to get out of there. The son whined to his father that he wanted the car. Before I knew what was happening, the father grabbed my arm and demanded that I hand over the keys since I heard what his son wanted. I'm not a small guy, and I can hold my own in a fight if I need to. I told him no again and recommended that he let me go immediately. While I was staring down the father, his son moved fast. He snatched the keys right out of my hand, unlocked my car, and jumped inside. I broke free from the dad and ran to the driver's door, but the little punk had already locked it from the inside. I could see him grinning at me through the window. The only thing I could think to do was stand behind the car to block the driveway. He couldn't leave without backing out, so I positioned myself right in his path. I told the father to make his kid get out of the car before I called the police. That's when my grandma came outside to see what all the commotion was about. She asked what was going on. I started to tell her to go inside and call the police because they were trying to steal my car, but the father shoved me hard to the side. I hit the ground and watched in shock as they drove off in my car, leaving their own vehicle behind, in my grandma's driveway. I immediately called the police myself. The good news was that my car was pretty distinctive, completely black with a red roof and red mirror tops. Not exactly something that blends into traffic around here. The police arrived within 10 minutes. One officer took statements from me and my grandma, while the other radioed the description and license plate to neighboring towns. About an hour later, we heard back. The police had spotted my car and pulled them over. Both father and son were arrested on the spot. When they brought my car back, the father was still trying to talk his way out of it. He kept insisting to the officers that they were just taking a test drive. The police weren't buying it. They escorted both of them away in handcuffs. The officers asked if I wanted to press charges, and you bet I did. Then I checked my car for damage. The odometer showed 20 more miles than before, and I found cigarette butts and ash all over my back seat. So not only did these entitled idiots try to steal my car, they smoked in it too. The father is facing charges for assault and conspiracy to commit theft. The son is looking at grand theft auto and probably losing his license. Their car is still sitting in my grandma's driveway. Turns out it's going to be impounded as evidence, and they'll have to pay all the towing and storage fees to get it back. If they ever get out of jail, that is. I'm a university student during the week and work as a bartender on weekends. Before that, I spent 6 years working retail, which really messed with my head in a weird way. I go on complete autopilot when I'm tired, and I mean complete autopilot. I once thanked my fiance for shopping with us after she made dinner at home. Yeah, it's that bad. As a bartender, I've gotten pretty good at the flashy stuff. We like to show off when we're mixing drinks, spinning bottles, and all that. My work uniform is this long white shirt that can be bleached, a blue vest that definitely can't be bleached, and black dress pants. It's not the most comfortable thing to wear for 6 hours straight, so I always pack a t-shirt and shorts to change into afterward. This Saturday was absolutely insane. There was some Australian Football League match on, and the place was packed beyond belief. The beer was flowing non-stop, people were cheering and yelling at the screens, and I was stationed at the spirits section, mixing drinks like crazy. I was making rum cocktails for a group of 10 people when disaster struck. I grabbed the next bottle of rum from the shelf, tossed the empty bottle toward the recycling bin, and spun the cap off with one smooth motion. Except it wasn't smooth at all. I managed to spill about 5 shots worth of rum all over the bottom of my white shirt and down my black pants. I just sighed and kept working because spilled alcohol is part of the job on busy days, and my manager knows I always write it off. When my shift finally ended, I was grateful that past me had been smart enough to pack clean clothes. Well, sort of smart. I had remembered to bring a t-shirt but forgot about the pants situation. The t-shirt I'd packed was this deep blue one with a picture of a winged fox and text that read, "I do not give a flying fox." It's from this artist called Fablefire, who makes these cheeky designs. I tossed my rum-soaked work shirt into my bag, changed into the clean t-shirt, and headed out still wearing my alcohol-smelling dress pants. Whatever, I was only going to the nearby department store to grab a few things before heading home. It happened to be the same store chain where I used to work for 6 years, so I knew the layout pretty well. I was standing in the candy aisle trying to decide between a discounted bag of cherry chocolate bars or a block of dark chocolate when I felt someone hovering behind me. Thinking they were trying to see the shelves behind me, I mumbled an apology and stepped sideways. I decided on the dark chocolate block, put it back, then grabbed the cherry bars instead because they're honestly better anyway. The person behind me made this obvious throat-clearing sound, so I apologized again and moved further aside. Then I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around to see this woman with bleached hair that looked like a bird's nest and sunglasses so big they could probably house a small family of insects. I knew immediately this was going to be one of those customers. She told me in this incredibly nasal voice that I needed to help her. Her voice sounded like she had a permanent cold and was somehow offended by my very existence. At this point, I was running on pure exhaustion, and 6 years of retail conditioning kicked in. Without me thinking about it, I politely said yes ma'am, like I would to any customer. She made this disgusted, scoffing sound like I had just done something offensive. She complained about my tone and demanded to know where the light bulbs were. I'm standing in the candy aisle, obviously not where light bulbs would be, but I tried to be helpful anyway. I told her I wasn't sure but thought they might be in the electrical section and pointed toward the general direction of where home goods and electrical stuff would be. She immediately put her hands on her hips and started tapping her foot like an impatient child. I just stood there like an idiot wondering what she expected me to do next. She demanded to know if I was going to take her there. I said no, confused about why she would expect me to walk her across the store. She threw her hands up in the air dramatically and complained that the service was terrible. She leaned in and jabbed her finger toward my chest. I instinctively stepped backward because honestly, who does that? She insisted that I needed to take her to the light bulbs. I finally started to wake up from my customer service autopilot and tried to explain that I didn't work there. She cut me off and said she didn't care what excuse I had. Then she stopped mid-sentence and I saw her nostrils flare like she was sniffing the air. She accused me of being drunk and demanded to see my manager. I tried to explain again that I didn't work there, but she told me to shut up and called me a drunk using a really nasty word I won't repeat. All her yelling brought over an actual employee, this skinny guy, who asked what was going on. She immediately started ranting about how the store was letting drunk employees serve customers and demanded to know if he was the manager. He tried to tell her that I didn't work there, but she cut him off and said she only wanted to speak to a manager. The employee turned around and walked over to the public address system, calling for the floor manager to come to the candy section. Smart guy stayed by the registers instead of sticking around for the show. My old manager came walking over looking tired and asked how he could help. She immediately demanded that he fire me, calling me a drunk piece of trash. The manager looked at me taking in my Flying Fox t-shirt, my rum-smelling dress pants, and my completely blank expression. She recognized that look from my years working there. She told the woman that I hadn't worked there for years. The entitled woman insisted that I did work there and told him to look at me. She actually jabbed me in the chest with her finger, making me stumble backward and knock some chocolate eggs off the shelf. She accused the manager of protecting me and being a drunk. The manager told her she needed to calm down, but she refused until I was fired. She kept ranting about how they were letting a drunk person serve customers and said she couldn't believe the manager was covering for me. Then she started lecturing him about not being good at his job and saying he should be taught a lesson about doing his job properly. This woman was talking to my old manager like he was her teenage son who'd forgotten to take out the garbage. She actually took a few steps toward him and started to raise her hand like she was going to slap him. He caught her wrist mid-air because apparently she telegraphs her moves like she's in slow motion. He asked if she was kidding him and shouted for security. He told her she was banned from the store and needed to get out immediately. 2 security guards came jogging over in response to his call. She kept screaming about calling the police for discrimination while they flanked her on both sides. The manager told her to look at my shirt and called her a dumb cow. That's when she finally actually looked at what I was wearing. Not the blue pinstriped business shirt the manager had on, but my borderline offensive t-shirt was a cartoon fox giving attitude. Suddenly, she claimed she was late for an appointment and needed to leave. This was at 6 p.m. on a Saturday, but sure, whatever helps her save face. The security guards escorted her out while she complained about the situation. The manager watched her leave, then gave me this sideways look and shook his head. I just waved it off because, honestly, dealing with customers like that was something I'd experienced at least once a week when I worked retail. I bought my cherry chocolate bars and drove home to play some online games, leaving behind another day's worth of evidence that some people really shouldn't be allowed in public without supervision. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.